It was a typical day on Earth, and most of humanity had no idea that their world was about to change forever. In the vastness of space, far beyond the reach of human technology, a strange vessel appeared. It was not the first time Earth had caught the attention of alien species, but this time, something was different. The ship was larger than any human-made spacecraft, its surface smooth and dark like polished metal. It moved silently through the atmosphere, drawing closer to Earth with a quiet, ominous presence. The people of Earth had always been curious about what lay beyond their planet, but they had never truly believed that they would be the ones to face the unknown. Humans had always been aware of the potential threats lurking in space: alien species, hostile forces, and even the possibility of total destruction. But most still thought of Earth as a small, insignificant dot in the vast galaxy, a planet too primitive to attract serious attention. They couldn't have been more wrong. At the military command center deep underground, a high-ranking officer named Captain Alex Morgan received the first reports of the unidentified craft. She had been in the military for over 10 years, dealing with all sorts of threats: terrorist attacks, foreign military operations, and even the occasional natural disaster. But nothing could have prepared her for this. The incoming vessel was not something Earth's military had ever encountered before. The ship's sheer size alone was enough to raise alarm, but there were no signs of aggression. It was just there, hovering above Earth's surface. "Do we know who they are?" Captain Morgan asked her superior, General Henderson, as she stared at the monitors in front of her. "We don't know yet," the general replied, his face tense. "We're trying to make contact, but they're not responding to any of our signals." Morgan's heart raced. This wasn't like anything they had trained for. They were always prepared for possible threats from hostile nations or natural catastrophes, but never from the stars. The general's tone said it all. This was something bigger, something that Earth was not ready for. She immediately ordered her team to prepare all defensive systems, but the uncertainty hung heavy in the air. What were they facing? And more importantly, what did these visitors want? As the hours passed, the tension in the command center grew. The alien ship remained stationary, observing Earth from above. In every military facility across the globe, the same questions echoed. Military personnel and scientists alike were scrambling to analyze the ship, its technology, and its intentions. But no one had answers. The visitors were silent, their ship a terrifying enigma in the sky. Meanwhile, the world's governments began to take action. Heads of state met in secret, discussing how to deal with this unprecedented event. Some advocated for immediate action, pushing for a show of force to send a message. Others called for diplomacy, urging caution and patience in the face of the unknown. But with each passing minute, the uncertainty only deepened. The visitors were still silent, still waiting, and humanity was starting to feel the weight of their decision. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the visitors made their move. A single light blinked on the surface of their ship, and with it, a deep, resonating sound filled the atmosphere, a low hum that reverberated through the ground. Earth's military was on high alert. This was the moment. But before anyone could react, the light faded, and in its place, a message appeared on every screen around the world. It wasn't a language anyone had ever seen before, but it wasn't completely unfamiliar either. The symbols were complex, like a code, but there was something unsettling about them. It was as if they were both ancient and modern at the same time. There was a message hidden within, but no one knew what it said. Captain Morgan's heart skipped a beat as she stared at the strange symbols. She had been trained for countless scenarios, but this was beyond anything they had prepared for. She could sense the urgency in the air. This wasn't just a contact. It was a challenge. What did the visitors want? Were they peaceful, or were they preparing for war? Just as the world seemed to hold its breath, a new message flashed across the screens. This one was different. It was still a series of symbols, but now, a deep voice filled the air. The words were garbled at first, but soon, The meaning became clear. We are not your enemies, Earth. We are not here to harm you. But you must listen, for your future depends on it. The message was brief, but it shook everyone to their core. The voice carried an authority, something primal and ancient. Whoever these visitors were, they were not like anything Earth had encountered before. And whatever message they had to deliver, it was urgent. Captain Morgan knew that the world had just crossed a line. The unknown had arrived. Earth was no longer the small, forgotten planet it once was. It had just been thrust into the center of something far larger than anyone could have imagined. As she looked out over the room, her mind raced. They were not alone anymore. This was no longer a world of isolation. The galaxy had just taken its first step toward revealing its secrets, and humanity had no choice but to stand at the center of it. Whatever came next, they would have to face it together. And Captain Morgan would be ready. The tension was unbearable. But one thing was clear. The universe had just opened its eyes, and Earth was about to learn what its place in it truly was. The world was on edge. The message from the visitors echoed in the minds of everyone. We are not your enemies, Earth. We are not here to harm you. But you must listen, for your future depends on it. The phrase haunted the airwaves. Governments scrambled to respond. The military remained on high alert, and civilians all across the globe feared the worst. Captain Alex Morgan stood before a massive holographic screen, staring at the image of the alien ship, hovering ominously above Earth's atmosphere. Her mind raced with questions. Who were they? Why had they come? And why had they left such a cryptic message? They were clearly not human, but what exactly did "we are not your enemies" mean? Was this some sort of warning or a prelude to something even more terrifying? Hours passed in an almost unbearable silence. The alien ship remained stationary, not moving an inch, not showing any signs of attack or aggression. But this only served to intensify the unease. People across the world were glued to their televisions, watching for any new developments. Each new piece of information felt like it might be the one to unlock the mystery of why Earth had suddenly become a target for the unknown. In the military command center, the lights were dim, and tension filled the room. The general's face was grim as he spoke. We've analyzed the message. It's not a standard form of communication. It's like they've tailored it for us. Whoever these beings are, they're trying to make contact, not with weapons, but with information. Captain Morgan could barely absorb his words. Her gut instinct told her that there was more to this than just a simple message. It was as if these beings had been waiting for Earth to reach a certain point. They wanted something, but it wasn't clear what. The general continued. We have no idea what kind of power they possess. Their ship is unlike anything we've seen before. We need to be cautious, but also be ready for anything. Suddenly, the ship above them shifted. It wasn't a dramatic move. There were no sudden bursts of speed, no blasts of energy. Instead, it simply pulsed, a soft, steady rhythm that matched the heartbeat of the planet itself. It was as if the ship was alive, breathing and watching. People in the military base stared in awe, but also fear. Could they be sensing the presence of something ancient, something far more advanced than anything humanity could imagine? In a quiet corner of the base, a small group of scientists worked feverishly. They were deciphering the symbols from the message, desperately trying to make sense of the alien language. It was a puzzle, one that had no clear answer. The symbols were not like anything humanity had encountered, and despite their best efforts, no translation seemed to make sense. Yet, they knew something profound lay hidden within the code. Captain Morgan took a deep breath, stepping forward to join the team. She needed answers. The entire world needed answers. What have you discovered? She asked, her voice steady, but her hands betraying her nervousness. We're getting there, Captain, one of the scientists replied. The symbols, they're more complex than we initially thought. There's a connection, a pattern we're starting to recognize. It's not just a language. It's like they're trying to share knowledge, a warning. But it's not clear yet what it all means. Morgan's mind raced. What could be so important that these beings would come all this way to make contact with Earth? The message was clear. The fate of humanity rested on understanding what they were trying to communicate. But how could they possibly decipher it in time? As the days passed, Earth's governments grew increasingly anxious. The visitors remained silent, watching, waiting. There were no signs of aggression, no hostile actions. Yet the tension continued to build, with each passing hour feeling like a drawn-out eternity. What were these beings waiting for? On the fifth day, just as the tension reached its peak, the alien ship made another move. This time, it wasn't a small pulse. This time, it was a shift in the fabric of the air itself. The atmosphere around Earth seemed to shimmer, to ripple as if the very air was bending. And then, a voice rang out across the planet. A voice unlike anything humans had ever heard before. It was calm, smooth, and soothing. Yet there was a power to it that commanded attention. "Humans," the voice said, and the entire world went silent. "You are not what you believe yourselves to be. You are not the destroyers you think you are. You are the guardians of a far greater purpose." The words hit Captain Morgan like a thunderclap. Guardians, she thought. Guardians of what? The message was becoming clearer, but it was also more confusing. The humans were the protectors, not the destroyers. What could this mean? The voice continued. "Your world is not the only one. The universe is vast, filled with dangers and threats beyond your understanding. But you have been chosen to protect it. You have been gifted with a power that has remained dormant until now, and we have come to awaken it." As the voice faded, the screens in the command center began to flicker. Another set of symbols appeared, but this time, they were followed by an image. It was an image of a vast, sprawling galaxy, teeming with countless stars, planets, and what seemed to be enormous celestial beings. The image was overwhelming in its beauty, and yet there was an undercurrent of danger. The message was clear. Earth was not alone. The galaxy was filled with life, and Earth was the safeguard, the shield against forces that humans could barely begin to comprehend. Captain Morgan stood in silence, the weight of what was happening settling upon her. She looked around the room, seeing the same confusion mirrored in the eyes of everyone there. What did this mean for humanity? What role would Earth play in this vast, dangerous universe? And most importantly, who were these visitors, and what did they want with humanity? The tension was thick. Humanity had just been handed a key to something far greater than they could ever have imagined. But with that key came responsibility and the unknown risks that came with it. The fate of the Earth, and perhaps the universe, now rested in their hands. Captain Morgan's thoughts raced as she stood in the heart of the command center. The message from the alien visitors echoed in her mind. "You have been chosen to protect." A strange sense of purpose washed over her, but with it came a flood of anxiety. What did it mean to be the guardians of a galaxy it could hardly even fathom? How could humanity, a species still learning to coexist on its own planet, shoulder the responsibility of the universe's protection? The tension in the room was palpable. Every soldier, every scientist, and every civilian across the world was waiting for answers. What did the visitors mean when they said humanity was not a predator, but a protector? How had humans been chosen for such an extraordinary role? Days passed, and the world held its breath. The alien ship remained stationed above Earth, its immense presence impossible to ignore. It was silent now, the messages and symbols having ceased, but their presence remained. It was as if the ship was waiting for humanity to make its next move. In a secure underground facility, a team of military strategists worked day and night, analyzing every possible outcome. General Williams, the seasoned commander of Earth's most advanced defense unit, stood before a massive holographic map, tracing the positions of the alien ships across the galaxy. "We've been sent a warning," Williams said grimly to his officers. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about our place in the larger universe. We need to understand why we were chosen. And more importantly, why we haven't seen the dangers these beings speak of. Morgan, along with her team of experts, had been working tirelessly to decode the symbols left behind. It wasn't easy. The language was complex and unlike any known to humanity, but they were beginning to make progress. The cryptic messages were slowly piecing together a terrifying picture of a universe full of threats beyond anything Earth could imagine. Each decoded symbol seemed to reveal a new layer of the mystery. There was talk of ancient wars between powerful civilizations, cosmic entities that could reshape the fabric of space itself, and powerful forces that had sought to destroy worlds. But humanity had been chosen, not as the warriors, but as the guardians. The symbols speak of something older than time itself, said Dr. Lillian Carter, a leading scientist in human history and culture. It seems Earth has been designated as a checkpoint, a kind of safeguard to hold back the forces that would consume entire galaxies. We weren't chosen for our strength, but for our ability to protect. Captain Morgan absorbed the words, feeling the weight of their significance. But there was one question that still lingered in her mind. What exactly were they protecting? The answers didn't come immediately. The more they decoded, the more the messages seemed to shift and change. It was almost as if the universe itself was testing humanity, seeing if it was ready to take on the responsibility of guarding such power. The deeper they dug, the more they understood that Earth's role was not just about defending their own planet, but about becoming part of something far greater, something that had been set into motion long before humans had even understood their place in the cosmos. Then, one night, everything changed. The alien ship that had hovered above Earth for weeks began to glow with an intense energy. It wasn't like any light humans had ever seen, bright, but not blinding. It pulsed in rhythmic patterns, sending waves of energy that rippled through the atmosphere. The ground beneath them seemed to hum with the vibrations, and for the first time, people began to understand that Earth wasn't merely a participant in this galactic drama. They were central to it. In the command center, a sudden alarm blared. All eyes turned to the massive screen, where a new symbol appeared. It wasn't part of the original cryptic message. This symbol was different, more intricate, more intense. It was a warning, and it was clear as day. The universe is on the brink. Within moments, a holographic image filled the room. It was a view of the galaxy, but this time, something was different. A massive dark energy wave was sweeping across the stars, consuming entire star systems. The galaxy was under threat, and no one knew how to stop it. In the center of the chaos was a massive, swirling black hole, but it wasn't just any black hole. It was alive. It was moving, expanding, and swallowing everything in its path. General Williams' voice broke the silence. This is what we were chosen to fight. His tone was firm, yet filled with dread. This is no ordinary force. It's a cosmic predator, a force that has the power to devour entire galaxies. And it's coming straight for us. Captain Morgan felt a shiver run down her spine. She had always believed humanity was still a young species, one just beginning to understand its place in the cosmos. But now she was faced with the terrifying reality that Earth had been preparing for something far greater than anything they had ever imagined. The visitors had warned them. The universe was full of dangers, and humanity had been chosen not as conquerors, but as the protectors. They were the shield standing between the galaxy and this dark, consuming force. And now, the real fight was about to begin. With no time to waste, Earth's military forces went into full mobilization. But Captain Morgan knew that military power alone wouldn't be enough. They needed the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding of the visitors who had called humanity to this role. The fate of the galaxy was at stake. The alien ship, still hovering above Earth, seemed to glow brighter, as if it, too, was ready for what was to come. The message was clear. Humanity's true purpose had been revealed, but the price of this knowledge was high. They were the protectors, but were they truly ready to defend the universe from a force so terrifying? The countdown had begun, and humanity's survival depended on the choices they made next. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they falter in the face of an unknown enemy? The answers were out there, waiting to be discovered, and humanity was about to face its greatest trial. Captain Morgan stood at the command center, her eyes fixed on the swirling image of the galaxy displayed before her. The dark energy wave was moving fast, its reach expanding as it consumed entire star systems. The alien ship above Earth was still glowing, its mysterious power now working to bolster the planet's defenses, but the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. General Williams was pacing the room, his face a mix of determination and worry. "We don't have much time," he said, his voice low. "This wave is moving faster than we can react, and it's only a matter of time before it reaches us." Morgan's mind raced. She had always known that humanity had potential. There was something unique about their survival instincts. But this was a fight for the entire universe, a battle that no one could have prepared for. What could Earth, a species that was still fighting to heal its own world, possibly do against something so massive, so beyond comprehension? But the visitors had been clear. They had entrusted humanity with a crucial role in the protection of the galaxy, and now that role was about to be tested in ways no one could have imagined. "Report," Morgan commanded, her tone firm, a necessary shield against the panic creeping at the edges of her mind. A young officer quickly moved forward, tapping commands into the console. "We've identified the origin of the energy wave. It's coming from a black hole located at the edge of the galaxy, one that's been dormant for millions of years. But it's awakening, and it's absorbing everything in its path. All the systems it passes through are collapsing into the void." Morgan felt her breath catch in her throat. A black hole wasn't something to be taken lightly, and one that could actively consume entire galaxies. It was an unimaginable threat. She turned toward the large holographic display that showed Earth's fleet assembling. But it wasn't enough. Even the combined might of their military could never stand against a force of such magnitude. "Can we reach the alien ship?" Morgan asked, looking for a glimmer of hope. "Can they help us fight this thing?" "We're still trying to establish a full connection," said Dr. Carter, her eyes glued to the monitor. "The ship's energy field is blocking most of our signals, but we've been able to communicate in small bursts. We'll try again." Morgan nodded and turned back to the battle map, her heart heavy. Every second counted now. The black hole's energy wave was unstoppable, and soon it would be too late for Earth to make a difference. They needed answers, and they needed them fast. Then the impossible happened. The alien ship above Earth suddenly shifted. Its massive hull glowed brighter, and the entire vessel seemed to pulse with a strange energy. A series of symbols flashed across the screen, and then, for the first time since its arrival, the ship began to speak, directly to humanity. Morgan's eyes widened in disbelief. She had heard rumors that the alien race had the power to communicate across space-time, but this was the first time Earth had been directly contacted in such a way. The voice that filled the command center was deep, resonating, and it sent a chill down everyone's spine. "We warned you," the voice began, "but now the time has come to act. You must face the darkness." The voice paused, allowing the weight of its words to settle. "The black hole you face is not just a natural phenomenon. It is a living force, a creature of the cosmos, seeking to devour all in its path. It has been asleep for eons, but now it has awakened, and it is drawn to Earth. The galaxy is its prey." Morgan felt a surge of terror. The living black hole. It was unimaginable, something that defied every rule of physics and logic. And it was coming for Earth. "The only way to stop it," the voice continued, "is through the use of the ancient power buried deep within your planet. Humanity has always been destined to guard the galaxy, but your true strength lies in the forgotten force that rests beneath your feet." The words hit like a thunderclap. A forgotten force beneath Earth's surface. What could it be? And how was it connected to the mysterious role humanity had been chosen to play? "We will guide you," the voice said, "but you must act quickly. The wave of destruction will arrive within hours. You must tap into the power buried beneath your planet and awaken it before it is too late." The message ended, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Morgan stood frozen for a moment, processing the enormity of what she had just heard. They weren't just defending Earth from a cosmic predator. They were the key to stopping the destruction of the galaxy itself. But how? How could humanity, a species that had only recently begun to understand its place in the cosmos, wield such power? General Williams' voice broke the silence. "We need to find this power, and we need to find it fast. Mobilize the teams. Prepare for a global search. We need to dig deeper than we ever have before." Morgan nodded, her mind already working. The answers were out there, hidden somewhere beneath the surface of the planet. But where? And what would they find when they dug deeper? The military began preparations, sending teams to search the most remote and unexplored areas of Earth. They had no idea what they were looking for, but they knew it had to be found, and quickly. Hours passed. Teams in all corners of the world worked tirelessly to uncover whatever ancient force lay buried beneath them. It was a race against time, with the dark wave of the black hole fast approaching. Then, just as hope seemed to wane, a team in Antarctica uncovered something massive. Deep beneath the ice, they found an ancient crystalline structure unlike anything seen before. It pulsed with energy, glowing faintly beneath the surface. The discovery sent a wave of excitement through the command center. Could this be the power humanity had been destined to protect? Morgan and General Williams immediately ordered a team to secure the site and begin extraction. The race to harness this power had just begun. But with the black hole's wave closing in, it was unclear if humanity would be able to unlock the mystery of the ancient force in time. And as the first rays of the dark wave began to touch the outer edges of the solar system, Captain Morgan knew that the fate of Earth and the galaxy now rested in the hands of humanity. They had been chosen, but would they be ready to face what was to come? The air was heavy with anticipation as the military teams worked around the clock to excavate the mysterious crystalline structure found beneath Antarctica's frozen surface. Weeks of labor had led to this moment, but with the black hole's destructive wave drawing nearer, every minute felt like a lifetime. Captain Morgan stood at the site's entrance, watching the teams work tirelessly. The large excavation machinery hummed, and the heavy cold winds cut through her uniform. But it didn't matter. She was beyond feeling the cold now. She was focused on the mission. Her eyes stayed fixed on the glowing structure they had unearthed, buried deep in the ice. The crystal, now partially freed, pulsed with an energy so powerful that it made the hairs on her arms stand on end. General Williams, standing beside her, gazed at the structure, his brow furrowed in concern. "It's unlike anything we've ever seen before. This energy, it's almost alive." Morgan nodded. The crystalline structure wasn't just a power source. It felt ancient, primal. There was something undeniably familiar about it, something that tugged at the very core of her being. It almost felt like it was calling out to humanity, inviting them to embrace its power. "Do we know how to activate it?" Morgan asked, her voice sharp and focused. Every second was a battle, and they couldn't afford to waste time. Dr. Carter, the lead scientist on the project, approached with a tablet in hand. She had been working nonstop, analyzing the strange energy readings coming from the crystal. "It's complicated," she admitted. "We've found several patterns in the crystal structure. It seems to respond to certain frequencies, but it's far more complex than we initially thought." General Williams looked up at her, his face hardening with urgency. "We don't have time for more theory, Dr. Carter. We need to activate this now. The black hole's wave is already approaching. Our window is closing fast." Dr. Carter glanced back at the crystal. She could see the same urgency in Morgan's eyes, but she wasn't sure if they had time to unlock its secrets. The patterns were so intricate, and the energy it emitted seemed to grow stronger with each passing hour. Yet it was still unclear what it would take to control or harness it. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through their bones. The excavation team stopped in their tracks, looking up in alarm. Something had changed. Morgan's eyes shot toward the crystal, her instincts screaming that something was happening. What was that? She demanded. Dr. Carter quickly checked the readings on her tablet. Her fingers trembled slightly as she swiped through the data. "It's responding," she said, her voice filled with awe. "The crystal is activating on its own." Before anyone could respond, the crystal's glow intensified, bathing the excavation site in an eerie blue light. It pulsed rhythmically, and the air around it seemed to warp, distorting reality itself. The ground beneath them vibrated violently, as if the earth itself was coming to life. Morgan and Williams exchanged a glance, both realizing the same thing at the same time. The crystal wasn't just a power source. It was a weapon, a force of unimaginable scale. But they didn't know how to control it, or what it might do next. "Everyone, back up," Morgan shouted, her voice filled with authority as she took a step back, her hand raised in warning. The team scattered as the crystal's glow intensified further. Suddenly, the ground split open, and a massive ancient energy barrier shot upward, encasing the crystal in a protective dome. The entire area around the structure was sealed off. Is it attacking?" Williams asked, his voice trembling as he stared at the energy shield. "No," Dr. Carter said, her eyes wide. It's protecting itself. It knows we're here. It knows we're trying to unlock its power." Morgan's mind raced. This was it. The moment they had been waiting for had arrived, but it wasn't going as planned. The crystal was not just a tool. It was an ancient entity, one that had been dormant for millennia, perhaps even longer. And now it was alive. But how could they communicate with it? How could they control it? The blue light continued to pulse, growing brighter and brighter, until it reached a blinding intensity. The air was thick with energy, and the hum became a loud, deafening roar. Morgan's heart pounded in her chest. She had never felt power like this before, a power that seemed to transcend everything they had ever known. Then a voice, no, a presence, spoke. "You are not ready." It was not a sound but a feeling, a message directly into their minds, filling the room with an overwhelming sense of weight and ancient wisdom. The words reverberated in Morgan's mind, making her head swim. "What do you mean?" she thought, her thoughts flooding her consciousness as she tried to communicate with the being. "You seek to wield the power you do not understand," the voice said, its tone deep and resonant. "The power of the universe itself. You seek to protect your world, but are you ready to accept the consequences?" Morgan's heart raced. She realized that this wasn't just a tool for saving Earth. This was a choice, a decision that could reshape humanity's entire destiny. "We don't have a choice," she thought, speaking not with words, but with determination. "We have to stop the wave. We have to save the galaxy." There was a long pause, and then the voice spoke again, softer this time, almost as if it was contemplating the decision. "Then you must prove your worth," it said. "To wield this power, you must prove your strength, your understanding of sacrifice." The crystal's light flickered, and the hum lessened slightly. It wasn't a challenge. It was a test. Humanity had been chosen to be the guardians, but they had to show that they were worthy of the responsibility. Morgan swallowed hard. The battle was only beginning. They had found the power to protect Earth and the galaxy, but they didn't yet understand what it would take to control it. She turned toward the military teams, her voice steady, but filled with resolve. "Prepare for everything. We need to unlock this power, but be ready to sacrifice. We're not just protecting Earth anymore. We're fighting for the entire universe." As the hum of the crystal filled the air, the realization hit Morgan. The fight was far from over. The true battle had just begun, and humanity would have to prove itself as the universe's guardians. They had the power, but could they wield it? Could they live up to their true purpose? Time would tell. The days following the crystal's awakening were a blur of constant activity. The excavation site had become a fortress, with military personnel and scientists working tirelessly to unlock the mysteries of the ancient structure. But despite their best efforts, one question continued to echo through Captain Morgan's mind. What did the crystal mean by "prove your worth"? The power emanating from the crystal seemed to grow stronger with every passing hour, and the energy barrier surrounding it pulsed with a rhythm that felt almost deliberate. There was something more than just raw power at play here. The crystal was a living entity, and its very presence seemed to demand something from humanity. Captain Morgan stood at the center of the command room, surrounded by the highest-ranking officers and scientists. Maps and data were spread across the tables, and digital screens flickered with the latest readings from the crystal. Yet, no one had any answers. "We have to make a decision," General Williams said, his voice strained. "The black hole's wave is closing in. We don't have the luxury of time. If we can't harness the crystal's power, Earth will be destroyed. The galaxy will be lost." Morgan looked around the room, her mind racing. The weight of the responsibility was suffocating, but she knew one thing for certain. They couldn't rush this. If they made a mistake, it would cost them everything. Dr. Carter, standing at the back of the room, nervously adjusted her glasses. "We've discovered more of the crystal's energy patterns, but we're still not sure how to trigger its full potential. Every attempt so far has resulted in failure." "Failure isn't an option," Morgan replied, her voice firm. "We have to find a way. This isn't just about Earth. This is about the entire universe. The crystal is ancient. It was placed here for a reason. We just need to figure out why." As she spoke, a sudden, sharp hum cut through the air. It wasn't just a mechanical sound. It was the sound of the crystal, resonating through the very walls of the facility. The hum grew louder, vibrating in Morgan's chest, until it felt like the entire base was alive with energy. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, and the screens in the command room went black. The crystal's energy barrier flared brighter, casting everything in an eerie blue light. The hum reached a crescendo, then suddenly stopped. A deep silence followed, one that was almost suffocating. For a moment, no one moved, no one spoke. Then a voice filled the room, not through the speakers, but directly in their minds. It was the same voice they had heard before, the one that had communicated with them when the crystal first activated. "You have come far," it said, its tone rich with ancient wisdom. "But you are still not ready. The power you seek comes with a price, a sacrifice that you must choose to make." Morgan's heart skipped a beat. The voice was clear now, its presence overwhelming. It was no longer a mere message. It was a demand. "What price?" she thought, speaking to the crystal with her mind. The crystal responded, its energy pulsating as it sent a vision through her thoughts. Morgan saw the black hole's destructive wave, closing in on Earth. But then, in the vision, something else emerged, an enormous, shadowy entity, far beyond anything she had ever seen. It was as if the very fabric of the universe had been twisted and warped by this being. It was a creature of destruction, of unrelenting power. And it was heading straight for Earth. "This is the true threat," the voice said. "The black hole is but a symptom of a much greater danger. The one who controls the wave seeks to destroy not just your world, but all worlds. It is a force older than the stars themselves. Only the true guardians can stand against it." Morgan's thoughts raced. She had known the wave was dangerous. But this was something beyond her comprehension. They weren't just fighting for Earth. They were fighting for the entire universe. "But how can we stop it?" she thought desperately. "What do we need to do?" "The crystal holds the key," the voice replied. "But to wield it, you must make a choice. You must choose to sacrifice something precious, something irreplaceable. Only then will you have the power to face the true enemy." Morgan's heart sank. Sacrifice. The cost was always the same. She turned to General Williams, her eyes filled with determination. We need to prepare. We have no choice but to face this threat. We can't run, and we can't hide. The crystal can give us the power we need, but we have to be ready to pay the price. Williams looked at her, his expression grim. What are you willing to sacrifice, Morgan? Morgan didn't answer immediately. She thought of her team, her family, her comrades. She thought of everything they had worked for, the lives they had saved, the future they had fought for. And she thought of the power of the crystal, the ancient entity that was offering them a chance to save everything. But she knew that saving everything would mean losing something, maybe even losing herself. I don't know yet, she whispered, but I will. The hum of the crystal returned, and the energy barrier flared once more. The crystal was calling them, urging them to act. Prepare, Morgan ordered, her voice steady. We may not have much time. The true battle is ahead of us. We need to be ready to face whatever comes next. As the command center sprang to life, and the teams began to prepare for the final confrontation, Morgan felt a chill run down her spine. The choice was coming, and she would have to make it soon. But the future of humanity and the universe rested in her hands. And whatever the cost, she was ready. The final moments before the battle felt like an eternity. The hum of the crystal, a constant presence, resonated through the command center, reminding Captain Morgan and her team of the weight they carried. Time was running out. The black hole's wave was drawing closer, and the shadowy entity, the true threat to the universe, was already on its way. Morgan stared at the flickering screens in front of her, each one showing a different view of the crystal's energy barrier. She had never felt so small, so vulnerable. The fate of everything, Earth, the galaxy, and all life, rested on her shoulders. And yet, even as the urgency of the moment pressed down on her, there was a strange sense of peace. The crystal had chosen them for a reason. It had awakened when humanity's survival was at stake, and it had given them the power to protect the universe. Now, all they needed was the courage to wield that power. Captain, the final preparations are complete, General Williams said, stepping into the room. His face was set in a grim, resolute expression. We're ready for the activation. Morgan nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. The crystal had given them a plan, an untested, risky plan, but the only one they had. They were going to use its power to fight the black hole's wave and confront the entity that controlled it. But first, they had to make the ultimate choice. The crystal's voice had told them the price. To use its full power, they would have to make a sacrifice. The price would be steep. And Morgan had already known, deep down, that it wasn't just any ordinary sacrifice. It was something that would change everything, something irreversible. Her mind wandered back to the moments she'd shared with her team, her loyal crew, the soldiers who had fought with her through every battle, and the scientists who had unlocked the mysteries of the crystal. They were more than just allies. They were family. And now, the time had come to decide who or what would pay the price. What are we risking, Morgan? Williams asked, his voice quiet, yet filled with an unspoken understanding. He knew the cost was more than they had let on. Morgan swallowed hard. We don't have a choice, General. The universe will pay the price if we don't. The screen flickered again, and a new image appeared. It was the entity, the shadow that had been drawing closer since the crystal had first awakened. A being of unimaginable power, larger than any ship or force humanity had ever faced. Its form was like a cosmic storm, shifting, swirling, and endless. It was a manifestation of destruction itself, born from the deepest voids of space. There it is, Williams said, his voice low. The true enemy. Morgan's grip tightened on the edge of the table. They had no idea how to fight something like that. But they didn't have time to wonder. The crystal's light flared again, and its voice filled their minds once more. Are you ready to sacrifice? The voice asked. What will you give to protect all that you love? The weight of the question settled into Morgan's chest like a heavy stone. She had thought long and hard about the cost. She had prepared herself, But now, with the crystal speaking directly to her, it felt different. This wasn't just an intellectual choice. This was something deeper, something that connected her to the very fabric of the universe. "I'm ready," Morgan whispered. The crystal responded with a sudden surge of energy, and a blinding light filled the room. For a moment, there was only white. Then, as quickly as it had come, the light faded, and the crystal's power settled into the air like a living presence. "This is it," Morgan said, her voice steady. "It's time." She turned to her team. Every soldier, every scientist, and every officer stood at attention. They had come this far together. They had made it through every challenge, every obstacle, and now they were ready to face the greatest threat of all. "Activate the crystal," Morgan ordered. The room hummed with energy as the team worked together to initiate the process. They knew this wasn't just about defeating the black hole's wave. This was about proving humanity's true purpose, to protect the universe, even if it meant sacrificing everything. As the crystal's energy surged into the atmosphere, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The air seemed to crackle with the intensity of the power being released. It was as if the very essence of the universe was being shaped into a weapon humanity would wield for the first time. Outside, the first signs of the black hole's wave were visible on the horizon. The skies darkened, and the stars seemed to tremble as the cosmic storm drew nearer. But the crystal's energy, now in full force, began to form a protective shield around the Earth. It wasn't just a barrier, it was a force of nature itself, pushing back against the void. And then, as the shadowy entity came into view, the true test began. The crystal's power lashed out, striking the entity with a force so intense that it shook the heavens themselves. For a moment, the entity faltered, its form flickering as if unsure of how to respond. Morgan's heart raced. This was it. The universe was watching, but humanity had made its choice. And now, the battle for everything they had fought for was about to begin. In the distance, the entity roared, a sound that reverberated across the fabric of reality. It wasn't done yet, but neither were they. The crystal's energy pulsed with a rhythm that echoed in Morgan's bones. The room shook as the entity, an ancient force of destruction, retaliated. Its massive form twisted and churned, a swirling vortex of cosmic chaos. The universe itself seemed to bend under its influence, but the Earth's shield, fueled by the crystal, stood strong. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't just a small player in the cosmos. They were the protectors. Morgan watched the monitors as the crystal's power fought back, pushing the entity's darkness away. But the battle was far from over. The shadowy creature's power was immense, and it wasn't going to give up without a fight. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and for a moment, Morgan could almost feel the pull of the void itself. But she held firm. "General Williams," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We have one shot at this. We need to amplify the crystal's power." Williams nodded, understanding immediately. He had known this moment was coming, the final act of sacrifice. The crystal had warned them. And now it was time to push everything to its limits. They had prepared for this, but no one could predict how the battle would unfold. Morgan turned back to the crystal. Its light pulsed brighter now, almost blinding. The hum of energy resonated through the facility, shaking the walls and floors. They were close, so close. But the cost of victory was still unclear. The crystal had given them its power, but at what price? The truth was, they didn't know if it would be enough. "All teams, prepare for full activation," Morgan ordered. "We're going all in." Her heart pounded in her chest as the crew worked quickly, following her command. The screens blinked with data as the crystal's power surged, spreading out like a net across the Earth. It was as if humanity was connecting with the very forces of nature itself, reaching out to hold back the tide of cosmic darkness. The entity, sensing the change, roared in defiance. It surged forward, attempting to breach the shield. The air crackled as it collided with the energy barrier, sending ripples through space itself. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the universe would tear apart at the seams. But then something changed. The crystal's energy didn't falter. It grew, expanding outward with a force that pushed the entity back. It was as if the very will of humanity was being channeled through the crystal, each pulse of energy sending the entity reeling. The battle between the two forces was now a war of wills. Morgan gripped the armrest of her chair, watching the scene unfold on the monitors. She could see the crystal's power intensifying, its light blinding, enveloping the entity in its glow. The storm of energy was so bright, it seemed to warp space itself. "Hold the line," Morgan whispered, though she knew her team was doing everything they could. The power of the crystal was overwhelming, but they couldn't stop. They had to push through. For Earth. For the universe. As the battle raged on, Morgan felt the strain. She could hear the crystal's voice in her mind again. It was soft now, almost like a whisper. "Are you willing to make the ultimate sacrifice?" Morgan closed her eyes, her mind racing. She had known the cost. She had prepared herself. But now, standing at the edge, the weight of the decision was heavier than ever. The crystal's voice continued, but it wasn't just in her mind. It was everywhere. The entire command center, the world itself, felt it. It was the call to action, the final test, and she knew what it meant. To protect the Earth, the universe, humanity, would have to sacrifice everything. It was the price of being the guardians of existence. "Do it," she said, her voice steady. "Activate the final sequence." General Williams and the crew followed her command without hesitation. They had no time to second-guess. The crystal's power reached its peak, and in that moment, it felt like the very essence of the universe was within their grasp. With one final burst of energy, the crystal released its full potential. The entire world seemed to vibrate as a blinding light engulfed everything. The entity screeched in fury, its form starting to collapse in on itself. The darkness that had threatened the universe began to unravel, losing its strength as the crystal's light tore through it like a blade. The battle was over. But at what cost? The crystal's light began to fade, its energy spent. The team watched in stunned silence as the monitors showed the last remnants of the entity dissolving into nothingness. The dark force that had threatened the galaxy was gone. But so was the crystal. Morgan sat back in her chair, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The room was silent, except for the hum of the remaining systems. The victory was theirs, but it felt incomplete. The crystal had been the key, but now it was gone, leaving them with only the knowledge of what they had achieved. Humanity had protected the universe, but in doing so, they had sacrificed the power that had made them the guardians. Morgan looked out the window, at the stars beyond. The universe was safe. For now. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity's purpose had never been to dominate or destroy. They were meant to protect. They always had been. And that legacy would live on, even without the crystal.